You've just done something that may be robbing you of the sharpness of your vision and you haven't even noticed. Maybe it was now, while listening to the beginning of this video. Or maybe it was just now, after reading a message on your cell phone, after cooking, after waking up. An automatic gesture so ingrained that the hand rises by itself to the face. The fingers press on the eyelids, make circular movements, and for an instant, it gives a relief. An almost childlike pleasure. But at that very moment, inside your eye, a pressure wave sweeps through the most delicate structures of your body. It's like stepping a cracked glass floor. With each rub, micro-fractures spread. And the worst, you don't feel it. The eye has no nerve endings of pain on the inside. He suffers in silence. Millions of people do this every day, several times a day. They scratch their eyes when they wake up. They itch when they get out of the shower. They scratch while reading. They scratch before going to sleep. And they believe it is harmless, which is just a way to relax. But the truth is that this gesture, repeated over decades, is one of the main avoidable causes of loss of visual quality after the age of 50. And I'm not talking about scratching with exaggerated force. Even moderate, constant friction accumulates damage. And when you're done listening to this video, you'll never look at this habit the same way again. You'll understand what's really going on inside, and more importantly, you'll learn how to relieve the urge to scratch without destroying your eyes. Because relief exists, but it needs to be the right way. If you are over 50, pay extra attention, because the damage that has already been accumulated can be stopped now. And the sooner you know this, the more you protect what is still whole. Now, I want you to understand the size of the problem. Vision is the sense that we use the most and the least truly protect. We apply sunscreen on the skin, we measure blood pressure on the heart, we repeat cholesterol every year, but the eyes we only remember when the handwriting of the newspaper starts to disappear, or when the car light at night turns into a blur. But then years of silent aggression have passed. And I'm not talking about an obvious thing like looking directly at the sun. I'm talking about something you probably did when you woke up today, when you got out of the shower, when you sat down to read a message. A gesture that looks like a caress in the eyes, but inside it is causing micro-injuries. And these micro-lesions accumulate, layer by layer, until one day the image is distorted, or a dark spot appears in the middle of the vision, or you start tripping over the furniture that was there all along. This is not an exaggeration. In the offices, we see this every week. People who lost quality of life because no one ever sat down with them to explain what was happening. And the central question I want to plant in your mind right now is this. Why hasn't anyone ever told you that? Why is it that in decades of consultations, exams, prescriptions for glasses, no one stopped and said, look, this gesture you make every day can deform your cornea. Can it rupture vessels in your retina? Can accelerate a cataract? By the end of this video, I'm going to give you 2 answers that are worth every minute of your attention. The first is the exact mechanism by which this daily gesture damages structures that never fully regenerate. The second is a set of simple attitudes, based on what science understands today, that can not only stop the damage, but help strengthen your vision from now on. And I'm not promising miracles. I'm talking about physiology, how the body works, and how you can stop boycotting your own body without knowing it. And if you stay with me until the end, you will also discover that the greatest enemy of your eyes may not be what you do with your hands, but what you put in your mouth and do not even suspect. For you to understand what is happening, I need to take you into your eye. Not with complicated names in medicine, but with the clarity of someone who is watching the movie of their own life. Imagine the eye as a camera. You have a lens in the front, which is the cornea, a transparent dome that concentrates light. Then comes the crystalline, an internal lens that adjusts focus for near and far. And in the background, the screen that captures the image, the retina. The retina is an extension of your brain. Yes, it is brain tissue. Each cell that captures light, the photoreceptors, is a specialized neuron. So every time something attacks the retina, you are attacking part of your nervous system. And these cells do not multiply. They can be repaired to a certain extent, but if they die, they are dead forever. Now, what happens when you make that automatic gesture of rubbing your eyes hard? The pressure you exert with your fingers is not only on the surface, it is transmitted into the eyeball. The internal pressure of the eye, called intraocular pressure, rises abruptly. Research shows that rubbing the eyes can increase this pressure by up to 10 times the normal value in a few seconds. It's as if you took a bladder full of water and squeezed it with both hands. Water presses against the walls. In the eye, this pressure reaches the retina, which is a very thin layer, thinner than a sheet of tissue paper, full of delicate blood vessels, vessels that look like silk threads. Over time, these microbursts of pressure will break these spider veins. They cause small bleeding that you don't even see, but that heals badly. And the retina is losing the ability to capture light clearly. In addition, the cornea, which is the main lens, is made of fibers arranged in a perfect grid. When you rub your eye repeatedly, you deform this grid, as if you knead a delicate fabric every day. This is called keratoconus, a progressive change in the curvature of the cornea that makes vision distorted, and worse, there is often no turning back. People who spend years rubbing their eyes often end up needing corneal transplants. And I'm not exaggerating. This is a reality in ophthalmology offices. But here's the part that no one tells you. This gesture is often a sign that something is not right on the ocular surface. Dry eye, allergy, tiredness. And then, instead of treating the cause, people use an eye drop that burns a little and then relieves it, and they continue rubbing. This is the real enemy. The vicious cycle between irritation, the momentary relief from scratching, and the damage that accumulates. The worst blind person is the one who doesn't want to see what he is doing with his own eyes. And I ask you, have you ever stopped to think about what happens inside your eyes when you rub them? Pay attention to this detail. The shape of your eye is maintained by stable internal pressure. When you push on your eyelid, you're pushing all of the fluid inside against the retina. There have been documented cases of people rubbing their eyes so often that they caused a tear in the retina, leading to a detachment. This is serious. And the scariest thing is that the person does not feel pain at the time. It only notices when a shadow appears in peripheral vision. And then it may be too late. I remember Mrs. Fatima. She was 68 years old, an active woman, took care of the house, liked to sew. She came to the office complaining that the needle threads were crooked, that the neighbor's window, which was once a perfect rectangle, now looked a little wavy. And she didn't understand. She did everything right. He wore glasses properly, passed his annual exams, ate carrots because he always heard that it was good. But she had a habit that she didn't even tell the doctor about. Every night, before going to sleep, she rubbed her eyes hard. It was a ritual, a way to relax. And she never imagined that that affection was distorting her cornea. When I showed her the images of the exam, comparing the curvature of her cornea with that of someone who had never rubbed, she was silent. Then she said, "Doctor, why didn't anyone tell me that before?" And that's the question I want you to ask as well. Not out of desperation, but out of awareness. Because the damage can be stopped. And the good news is that science has answers that go far beyond "don't rub your eyes." There are ways to calm the cause, to nourish the eyes inside and out, to create a routine that reverses dryness, which strengthens the eye structures. I want to show you that. I want to show you that you can, yes, regain comfort and visual quality, and that the fear of losing independence, the fear of not recognizing the grandchildren's faces, is not a sentence. It is a call to act with knowledge. And the first thing you can do now is simple, but probably no one has taught you the right way. Let's start with the base. The surface of your eye needs a healthy teardrop layer. It's not just any tear. It is a film composed of 3 parts: a layer of mucus that sticks to the cornea, a layer of water that hydrates, and an outer layer of fat that prevents evaporation. This fat is produced by tiny glands at the edges of the eyelids. When you blink, these glands release the oil. Now, what do millions of people do when they feel dry or irritated? They get a whitening eye drop, one of those that promise white eyes in minutes. Observe this carefully. These eye drops contain substances that constrict the blood vessels on the surface of the eye. They do take away the red, but they don't treat the dryness. Worse, with frequent use, the eye gets used to it, and when the effect wears off, the vessels dilate even more in a rebound effect. It's like addicting the eye. And yet many of these eye drops have preservatives that, in the long run, damage corneal cells. The person enters a cycle. Dry and red eyes, uses the eye drops, relieves for a few hours, then comes back worse. And it never solves the cause. And do you know what is the mistake that cancels everything? To think that eye drops are harmless. But there is a simple alternative that almost no one knows about. Warm compresses. That's right, a warm compress, applied to closed eyelids for a few minutes, helps to melt the oil that may be hardened inside the glands, releasing the layer of fat that will protect your tear. Studies associate the regular use of warm compresses with significant improvement of dry eye in people over 50 years of age. Donna Fatima, when she started doing this every day, felt relief in the first week. And the best? It reduced the urge to rub the eyes. Here's the revelation. The relief you seek by scratching can be found with a warm cloth, and without damage. But that's just the beginning, because lightening the surface is essential. But what really nourishes your eyes comes from within. And if you skip that part, the relief will be fleeting. Now let's go inside. What you eat decides what your eyes get. On the retina, right in the center, there is an area called the macula. It is responsible for seeing details, reading, recognizing faces. The macula contains natural pigments that act as a protective shield against blue light and ultraviolet rays. These pigments are obtained from food. They are present in dark green leafy vegetables, such as spinach and kale, and also in egg yolks. But here's the mistake most make. These pigments need fat to be absorbed. Many people make salad with leafy greens, but without a drizzle of olive oil, without a nut, without avocado. And the precious pigment passes straight through the intestine without entering the blood. In addition, the egg yolk, which for decades has been demonized, is one of the richest sources of these protectors. People over 60 years of age who included eggs in a balanced way in their diet had a higher concentration of these pigments in the retina, as shown by population surveys. I'm not saying to eat a dozen eggs a day, but 1 egg a day, with the yolk soft so as not to damage the pigments, can make a noticeable difference. Another nutrient your eyes crave is omega-3, found in cold water fish like sardines and salmon. It fights inflammation of the eyelids and helps produce tear fat. But what about those who take omega-3 capsules? Pay attention to this detail. Most capsules on the market are in a form that is less absorbed, especially if you have slower digestion, common with age. There are ways of better absorption, which are triglycerides. That changes everything. And I'll tell you, patient. Mr. Antonio, 74 years old, complained of cloudy vision and sandy eyes. He was already eating fish, but it was only when he adjusted the quality of the fish oil and added a small portion of green vegetables to his lunch with olive oil that within 6 weeks he noticed that the feeling of sand in his eyes went away and his night vision improved to the point that he drove back to the bakery at night. The body has an incredible responsiveness when we give it what it needs in the right way. But even with the right nutrition, there's another factor that plays against you every night, and most people ignore it completely. There is a cleansing process that happens in your eyes while you sleep. During deep sleep, the cells of the retina recycle the waste accumulated during the day. It's like a cleaning crew that goes into action when the office is closed. This cleaning removes toxic substances that, if accumulated, can damage the photoreceptors, the cells that capture light. Now, what sabotages this process? Artificial light, the light that enters through the eyelids, even if you have your eyes closed. If you sleep with the television on, with a bluish light from a flashing charger, or if you use your cell phone in bed and turn it off just when you close your eyes, the brain understands that it is still daytime. The production of the sleep hormone is inhibited, and this hormone, in addition to regulating sleep, is a potent antioxidant for the eyes. That is, your eyes lose double protection. They lose efficient cleaning, and they lose an antioxidant shield. Millions of people sleep without proper curtains or electronic devices in their bedrooms, and then wake up with heavy red eyes and blurred vision that takes time to focus. This is the sign that the cleaning team was unable to work. The practical tip here is not just to sleep in the dark, but to create a transition. After dinner, dim the lights in the house. Use yellowish lights. If you need light to go to the bathroom, use a small indirect light on the floor, never a strong lamp on the face. And an hour before bed, avoid screens as much as possible. Mr. Antonio, the same one who drove again, reported that when he started to wear a comfortable blindfold to sleep, because his wife liked to read with a lamp, he woke up with much more rested eyes and clearer vision in the morning. He said, "Doctor, it seems that I washed my eyes inside while I slept." And that's exactly what happens. But rest alone does not solve if during the day your eyes are being punished by another habit that no one relates to vision. The eyes are not isolated organs. They depend on a constant flow of oxygen and nutrient-rich blood. Blood circulation in the retina is one of the most intense in the body. However, over the years, the vessels can become stiffer and blood pressure can fluctuate. What happens when you spend hours sitting, whether reading, watching television, or on the computer? The general circulation slows down, and the eyes suffer. But that's not all. There's a subtle mistake that many make even when trying to be healthy. Intense exercise done wrong can suddenly increase the internal pressure of the eye. Lifting very heavy weights, holding your breath, causes a pressure spike that is transmitted to the eyes. People with a predisposition to glaucoma can accelerate optic nerve damage, but the good news is that smooth, regular movement is a powerful remedy. Walking 30 minutes a day at a pleasant pace improves circulation in the capillaries of the retina. This has already been documented in studies that measured ocular blood flow before and after walking programs, and there is a simple exercise that you can do even while sitting. Move your eyes in all directions without straining. Look up, then down, to one side, to the other. Make smooth circles. This will not cure myopia, but it does help relax the external muscles of the eye and pump the fluid that circulates inside it. Think about the dimension of this. Each movement is like a gentle milking that renews the fluid that nourishes the cornea and the lens. Patient Donna Clara, 71 years old, had initial glaucoma and was very afraid of losing her sight. She started walking daily and making these eye movements. After 3 months, the internal pressure of her eye, measured by the ophthalmologist, was more controlled, and she felt her eyes looser as she said, "It does not replace the prescribed eye drops, but it has added up." And that's the key. Now, my friends, I want to take a quick break here. If what I've shared so far made sense to you, if you've recognized any of those habits I've commented on, help me spread this message. Leave your like on this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next content, and comment below your city or country and tell me, which of these mistakes do you think you were making without knowing it? Is it about eye drops, about food, about light at night, about the way you rub your eyes? I read the comments and bring answers in the next videos. Share it with someone you care about because this information can make a difference in the life of those who are afraid of losing their sight. Now, let's move on to the heavier revelations. Because there's still a silent traitor that's on almost everyone's plate, and it's not the sugar you might think. Now I'm going to show you a traitor. A food that is on most people's table and that is not sweet. White bread, white rice, refined flours, they turn into blood sugar very fast. Glucose spikes raise insulin and generate chronic inflammation. This inflammation attacks blood vessels throughout the body, but the eyes, with their very thin vessels, are especially vulnerable. Diabetic retinopathy is the tip of the iceberg. But long before a diagnosis of diabetes, repeated sugar spikes are already hurting the walls of the retinal vessels, making them fragile, prone to leaks. And this doesn't just happen in those who have diabetes. It happens in those who have prediabetes, who often don't know they have it. Millions of people over the age of 50 have insulin resistance and have not been warned. Sugar also generates advanced glycation end products, which harden the lens and accelerate cataracts. That changes everything, because the person thinks he is eating normally, with his bread for breakfast, white rice for lunch, cookies in the afternoon, and does not understand why his vision worsens year after year, despite wearing new glasses. The mistake that cancels out the benefit of a diet is to think that only sweets cause problems. Refined starch, too. Swapping white bread for real whole wheat, white rice for brown rice, reducing pasta and sweets, is one of the most powerful interventions for eye health. And I saw it in practice. So Jose, 66 years old, had exams that showed small hemorrhages in the retina, a sign of vascular fragility. He was not diabetic, but he ate a lot of refined carbohydrates. When he adjusted his diet, in 6 months, the following tests showed that the microhemorrhages had stabilized and the retina was healthier. The ophthalmologist was surprised, and Mr. Jose said to me, "Doctor, I didn't know that the bread roll did that." This is the revelation that remains. But the traitor is not alone. There is another one that many people use thinking it is healthy, and it also messes with the health of your eyes in a way that will surprise you. If I tell you that artificial sweetener you put in your coffee might be stealing your eyesight, would you believe it? That's right. Aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, they alter the intestinal flora in a negative way. And your gut, believe me, sends direct messages to your eyes. Trillions of bacteria, the intestinal flora, live in your intestine. They are not just for digestion. They produce substances that enter the blood and go to the eyes to protect them. They produce B vitamins, vitamin K, and anti-inflammatory compounds. When the intestinal flora is unbalanced, due to the use of antibiotics without replacement, a diet low in fiber, and excess of industrialized foods, something serious happens. The wall of the intestine becomes permeable, letting particles pass through that they should not. This generates inflammation that reaches the eyes. Diseases such as age-related macular degeneration have been increasingly associated with changes in the intestinal flora. Research participants who received supplementation with specific probiotics showed improvement in markers of eye inflammation. But pay attention to this detail. Not just any probiotic works, and the common mistake is to take any probiotic from the pharmacy and continue with a diet low in prebiotic fiber, which is the food of good bacteria. Garlic, onions, green bananas, oats, asparagus. These are natural prebiotics. They feed the bacteria that will produce the protective substances for your eyes. Here's the heaviest revelation. Your eyes depend on an ecosystem that lives in your gut. If you ignore this, you may be boycotting all other care. Donna Fatima, the one with the distorted cornea, when she improved her diet and included prebiotic fibers, noticed that eye irritation decreased even more because systemic inflammation decreased. She said, "It seems that my whole body is calmer, and so are my eyes." But what many people don't know is that there is one more traitor, a food that seems harmless, and that for many people is poison to the eyes. Milk, and its derivatives. Many adults have an undiagnosed sensitivity to milk protein, which causes chronic low-grade inflammation. This inflammation can manifest in the eyes as blepharitis, dry eye, persistent redness. And the person uses eye drops, makes a compress, takes omega-3, but it doesn't solve it because they continue to drink milk every day. I'm not saying that everyone should cut milk, but if you have irritated eyes that don't get any better, try going 2 weeks dairy-free and watch. You might be surprised. Another traitor that looks healthy is natural fruit juice. Calm down, I'll explain. The whole fruit has fiber that holds the sugar. The juice, even without added sugar, concentrates the fructose and becomes a shot of sugar in the blood. That glass of orange juice in the morning may be causing a spike in glucose and inflammation. It is better to eat the fruit with pomace. Small changes, big impact. And there is one more factor that brings all this together and enhances the damage: chronic stress. Cortisol, a stress hormone, reduces blood flow to the head and eyes, constricts vessels, and messes up the intestinal flora. It's a complete damage package, and the mistake that nullifies everything is to think that there is no way, that age is to blame, that it is normal for vision to worsen. It's not normal. It is common, but it is not mandatory. Nature has designed a body that can function well for many decades, as long as we stop getting in the way. And now, I'm going to reveal the most amazing mechanism of all. The one that connects everything I've talked about so far. There is a direct communication pathway between your gut and your eyes. Scientists have discovered that certain immune cells circulating in the blood are programmed into the gut. When the gut flora is healthy, these cells go to the eyes and act as guardians, protecting against inflammation. When the flora is sick, these cells can become aggressive and attack the eye structures. This explains why some inflammatory eye diseases improve when a person treats the intestine. Think about the dimension of this. Every sip of soda, every slice of white bread, every artificial sweetener, every night of sleep, every moment of stress, all of this changes the composition of the bacteria that live in you, and they, in turn, send signals that can protect or destroy your eyes. Macular degeneration, the main cause of blindness in people over 60 years of age, has a very strong inflammatory component, and inflammation starts in the gut. The most recent study that has shaken up the medical community has shown that the progression of macular degeneration can be slowed and, in early stages, reversed with a combination of dietary changes, stress management, physical exercise, and specific antioxidant supplementation. People who participated reported improvement in their vision sharpness within a few months. I'm not talking about miracles, I'm talking about giving the body what it needs to regenerate. Because retinal cells have a limited capacity for repair, but they do. And every little improvement in microcirculation, Every reduction in inflammation, every good night's sleep, is a little brick in the reconstruction of your vision. Whoever is watching now, pay attention to this closure. I want to speak directly to you who are listening to me. You who woke up today and felt that your eyes were more tired than they should be. You who have already accepted that blurry vision is part of aging. You who are afraid that one day you will not be able to read a recipe, or worse, not recognize the face of a grandchild. This fear is not weakness. It's love. It is attachment to life. And it is this love that can move you to make different choices starting today. You don't need to be held hostage by miraculous eye drops or increasingly strong glasses or risky surgeries. You need knowledge. You need to understand that everything you put in your mouth, every night's sleep, every automatic gesture is making or breaking your vision. And the decision is yours. Science has already shown the way. What is missing is for someone to sit down with you and explain, patiently, what really matters. I hope I was that person today. Share this video with your loved ones, not as a favor to the channel, but as a gesture of care. Because those who like you deserve to know what you just learned. Take care of your eyes. They are the window to the world, and the world still has a lot of beauty for you to see.